The big green ogre returns. He's got all the old friends and some new friends, this time in Shrek the Third. I'm Richard Roeper. Sitting in for Roger this week is the film critic for the Chicago Tribune, Michael Phillips. Good to see you again, sir.
How you doing, Richard?
I'm doing all
right. Let's go.
Let's get to it. The third time is almost never the charm for sequels, and unfortunately that holds true for Shrek the Third. I thought the original Shrek was creative and subversive and great fun. The second was pretty good, but now they're just repeating the in-jokes and getting too cutesy and sentimental. Shrek's hardly an ogre at all. He's more like the guy on The King of Queens. And his loyal sidekick, Donkey, is now the proud father of a flock of bizarre donkey dragon babies.
Good morning to you and you and you. Oh, they grow up so fast.
Not fast enough.
When Shrek's Frog King father-in-law literally croaks, Shrek learns he's next in line for the crown. Problem is, you can take the ogre out of the swamp, but you can't take the swamp out of the ogre.
A little over to the left, yeah.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Oh, yeah. You got it. You love it. You love it.
The most entertaining character is Rupert Everett's Prince Charming, who's now reduced to playing himself in bad theatrical productions. He's bent on revenge.
Shrek went off to bring back the next heir! Oh!
He's bringing back the next heir.
No!
Hook! Get rid of this new king.
Right!
But bring Shrek to me. I have something special in mind for him.
Shrek the Third has some fun with Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, and Cinderella. Turns out that post-fairy tale, these princesses sound like bickering, desperate housewives.
Well, maybe it just bothers you that I was voted fairest in the land.
Oh, you mean in that rigged election?
Oh, give me a break. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down thy golden extensions.
Now, this is the most visually impressive Shrek yet. It's also the least inspired. We get the occasional gross-out joke, sure to get the kids laughing. There are a handful of mildly funny visual in-jokes. But it seems as if the best gags and storylines are for the minor characters, the old-time fairy tale icons. Meanwhile, Shrek and Fiona are stuck in a sitcom storyline with Shrek worrying he won't be a good father. With a running time of 1 hour and 33 minutes, Shrek the Third is mercifully short, but it still kind of runs out of gas before reaching the finish line. So unfortunately, Michael, I got to give it a thumbs down.
I'm with you. You know, it's weird to see how this character, Shrek, is sidelined by his own movie, you know. I think there's so, you know, just like Spider-Man 3, you have 3 different potential successors to the crown in this thing. And I just feel like the screenwriters are kind of tearing all over the place, trying to get all the storylines in. And there's something that's always bugged me, even about the Shrek films I liked, which is this somewhat uneasy mixture of, you know, total cynicism and sarcasm, and then the occasional stab at heart. And there's one moment early on in Shrek 3 that really kind of got to why I couldn't get on board with it.
Okay.
The death of the Frog King, right? The John Cleese voice character.
Right.
And they play it for a gag, and the old joke about, well, is he dead? No, he's got 2 more lines to say. No, he's dead. Yeah. And then they're trying to they're trying to take it a little bit seriously, but mostly make jokes at the expense of the frog.
Yeah.
And then they're playing Live and Let Die. You know, McCartney's Live and Let Die during the funeral.
I
and I think,
that
who is this
scene
for?
was really
you know?
sour.
Who is it
it's
for?
like, yeah, okay, we got the rights to Live and Let Die. Let's just play the song.
And bad odor, bad odor.
You know, kind of a Python-esque death scene, but then, you know, Fiona's really upset because that is her father. And you're right, it has a hard time with the split personality.
Right.
You know, again, he has to be an ogre, and now he's just so cuddly. He might as well be Winnie the Pooh.
Right.
You know, you want to have a sense that he's still a little bit menacing and scary and has a temper, and he's just this lovable
It's a mixed
lump now.
It's a mixed blessing, because in the first 2, Myers spent the whole time hacked off at his annoying sidekick, right? Who happened to be the funniest character in it, the Eddie Murphy character, I think. And Antonio Banderas, terrific addition with the second one, and he's the only thing. But he's the only thing that got. But he's the only one who seems like he's really committed to this. Cameron Diaz doing Fiona. Now she's doing a Valley Girl voice because she's not much of a voiceover artist, frankly. And you have this whole subplot about them going to this high school where Justin Timberlake, and it's basically Thou Art Clueless, right? It's like a Beverly Hills 90210 thing. And now all those people are talking in sort of Valley Girl talk and all that, and then here you have Diaz in the same way, with, you know, non-satirically. I thought the whole thing was just sort of half-baked.
I just think, you know, it's a sequel because you know, you're gonna make hundreds of millions of dollars where you're gonna keep making these movies. But I really do feel as if with the first one we had a great story. The second one, okay, we wanted to get our happy ending, but now it's just tacked on. We're kind of getting into that cuddly Lethal Weapon 12 territory that has nothing to do with the original.
Yeah, Joe Pesci's great in Shrek 3. From the Green Ogre to the Emerald Isle, this next one's a fantastic little sleeper from Ireland called Once. The writer-director John Carney describes his film as a video album, which is another way of saying it's almost a musical. Whatever you want to call it, it's the most charming thing I've seen all year, telling a simple story of a week spent together in Dublin by a busker played by Glenn Hansard, who was in The Commitments, and a Czech emigre who sells flowers and plays piano. She's played by Marketa Erglova, and when she sits down in a music store with her new friend, it feels like the start of something big.
Take this sinking boat and point it home. We've still got time.
The street musician, who works in his dad's vacuum repair shop, asks his new friend to record some songs with him before he heads off to London to find his girlfriend. But first they have to secure a loan from a local bank.
You play tour bus. I'm sure you can get him to approve.
Can I show you something?
I wanna be free. I wanna be me. I want you to be you. You want me to be me too.
The film Once doesn't even last an hour and a half, yet when it's over, you feel what so few romances make you feel, that you've gotten to know a couple of great lived-in characters on their own terms while they do what they do best, which in this case is making music together. It's the brief encounter for the 21st century, I think. It's also my favorite music film since Stop Making Sense back in the 80s. Once is in limited release, so you're going to have to look for it. But if my thumb were any higher on this one, I'd have to get a new thumb. I love this film.
I'm putting my thumb right next to yours, Michael. I agree. I'm so thrilled to hear that you shared like the joy I had, the exhilaration in watching this film. The music is fantastic. I already have the songs from this film on my iPod, and listening to it the other day I was working out, I felt like I had a great secret that I wanted to share with the world. Amazing music, great performances, and this is really, truly a musical in the best sense of the word, because they stop and play entire songs, but they do it in a real-world setting. So if they're on a bus, a woman's giving them a look like, what are you singing about? And the language there is a little bit salty. So well done.
And you don't get any of that, you know, if you're sort of adverse to the Broadway translations to film, like Dreamgirls or Chicago, you get none of that kind of baggage. And the director, John Carney, is very sharp about stripping all that away. And it really feels like, to me, it almost feels like a French New Wave picture. It's handheld,
beautifully
shot
in a very simple way.
The whole thing was done for $150,000.
It's incredible.
I defy anybody not to really get charmed by it.
I'll tell you, there's the scene where they finally get into a recording studio and get a chance to lay down some tracks that I found more inspirational and uplifting than almost any number in Dreamgirls or Chicago or any of those multi-zillion-dollar musical show-stopping tunes.
Big oomph.
In its own way, it'll blow you away.
Here's the other thing that makes me nuts about the MPAA, the rating system. Once, which is a film so charming and big-hearted, it's like guaranteed to make any 12-year-old a better person. Rated R, so Once gets an R rating for a handful of, you know, the F word here and there.
That's nuts.
Makes me nuts. And
so kids sneak in.
Sneak in.
But you didn't hear that from me. Okay, coming up next, Oscar winner Kim Basinger and Oscar winner Forrest Whitaker in a movie that probably won't be mentioned around Oscar time.
Your brother's going to lose the conference championship game, Clyde.
What the hell has happened to you, Carolyn? It's a championship game. It's everything he's ever lived for.
I don't want our perfect little life. I want to lie through my life.
Now, if you tell me there's a gambling movie starring everyone from Forrest Whitaker and Kim Basinger to Danny DeVito to Nick Cannon to Ray Liotta to Tim Roth, among others, I'm in. Too bad just about everyone falls into a black hole of an overwritten, overwrought melodrama in this convoluted disaster. This is one of those bad movies that'll hold your interest just long enough because it offers glimpses of something better. Throughout this movie, Kim Basinger's hands shake as if there's some kind of 4.7 Richter scale earthquake erupting inside of her. She plays a novelist who's hooked on gambling. Danny DeVito plays a failed magician who practically lives at the casino.
Remember what I told you about the odds? Let the dealer bust. Let the dealer bust.
You're lucky. I feel lucky.
Odd. You gotta play the odds.
I feel lucky. Just one more.
Want a hit?
One more.
She wants a hit.
Hit it.
In a third storyline that plays like a film noir, even though the rest of the film doesn't fit the tone, Kelsey Grammer is a cop and Tim Roth is a bad guy. We know he's a bad guy because he's throwing cards at a bird.
I think you killed Wing Lo.
You're a lousy detective, Sticks. Ivan would never bother with a nothing like Wing Lo.
Ivan wouldn't.
What?
You're not Ivan.
This movie raises a lot of questions. Why does Grammer have that weird nose? Why is Roth swishing about and madly overacting? Even Money has some interesting performances, most notably from Ray Liotta as Basinger's incredibly patient husband, but it's kind of a disaster. The body count increases, and there's lots of talk about this mysterious Ivan, who's the capo de buki de capo or something like that. And the big twist is no twist at all because it makes no sense whatsoever. It's a complete disaster. That's thumbs down. And if you give this movie thumbs up, I'm going to have you removed from the balcony, sir.
I have to stick to my convictions and say I didn't like it. But we must talk about the nose. Okay, Kelsey Grammer is wearing this thing that Laurence Olivier wore in Richard III. Also, I think, or it's sort of, it's like he went into a nose store and said, "Give me the Lee J. Cobb," and you know, that's
the nose store.
And if the film were any better written, you wouldn't notice such things. You wouldn't be asking all these questions about logic and about whether or not anybody could really keep a gambling addiction that secret for months and months and months. And not just one character, but everybody. And yeah, I don't know. The director Mark Rydell did some good work. Cinderella Liberty in the old days. These days are not those days.
No, it's just unfortunate.
Coming up next, Eva Mendes and Owen and Luke Wilson star in the Wendell Baker Story.
Be sure to check out our new website for full-length video replays of each week's reviews 24 hours a day. Visit atthemoviestv.com, the online home of Ebert and Roeper.
Got you a job. What? Starts Monday.
Okay, looking at movies now in theaters, there was a split on both Georgia Rule and 28 Weeks Later, and The X got 2 thumbs down.
Next is the Wendell Baker Story, and it's the work of not one, not two, but 3 separate Wilson brothers. Luke Wilson, who wrote it and co-directed with his brother Andrew, plays an Austin con man whose girlfriend is a straight arrow, played by Eva Mendes. Wendell's latest business enterprise involves selling fake IDs to undocumented workers fresh over the Mexico-Texas border.
I get out of a relationship with Salma Hayek, the frying pan, and go right into the fire. Jenny Lopez, nice girl, dated her briefly. So that's how we do it here at Wendell Baker International, where we've been serving the Southwest since 1971. So I just got one question. Who wants to get American?
Wendell's caught, does some time in Huntsville, and once he's out of the slammer, he gets a job at a state-run home for the elderly, run by a weasel played by brother Owen Wilson.
God, I just love to see their wrinkled old faces light up with smiles. Give me one. You see, Wendell, these 2 old coos hounds still have a lot to offer, even if they do got sawdust in their Let me through.
In this scene, Eddie Griffin plays a Shady Grove staff member trying to encourage the men to attend a funeral.
See, buddy, me and the boys are just relaxing, listening to the ball game. I think Marietta would have liked it then.
I don't give a damn what Marietta would have liked. She dead.
Now, I like stoner comedies as much as the next dude, and this one has a very relaxed and loosey-goosey 70s vibe, but it doesn't hold together at all or even come apart in interesting ways. Mainly, it's hobbled by Luke Wilson's anti-gravity lack of charisma and the slackness of the direction. It's been sitting on the shelf for quite a while, and I wish the news were better, but thumbs down for me.
I think it's one of the worst movies of the year. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I never want to see it again, and I'm very, very disappointed because I like all the Wilson brothers, and I think that Luke Wilson can be charismatic, Michael, but this is a disaster, man. I mean, I kept thinking, okay, maybe this is based on a true story, so there'll be something. We'll get the little coda at the end telling us, you know, Wendell Baker went on to do... No, it's just, you know, a flight of fancy. Maybe it's supposed to be a stoner comedy. I don't know, and it makes absolutely no sense. Okay, so Luke Wilson, he gets out of prison, and Owen Wilson is running this weird nursing home thing and funneling these old-timers up to Mom's house, and they go up to rescue them. Why wouldn't you just call somebody? I mean, it's just, there's just nothing here, man. There's nothing here.
Owen Wilson didn't write it or directed it, but the stuff that Owen Wilson has co-written and been involved with on a creative end, things like the Royal Tenenbaums, Rushmore, which is very good. Sure. They're all, there's a fine line between willful eccentricity and total aggravation. Very kind of artfully tread in those films. And this film plays like some sort of weird sibling rivalry attempt to kind of write something like Owen did. And man, the eccentricity is just
it's just one flat scene after another. Eva Mendes looks great. She's giving a terrible performance here, but I don't know if anybody could do anything.
I don't even think the inclusion of the Baldwin brothers would improve this thing. You know, the Rich brothers.
The Rich brothers.
Yeah, I go for the
nice reference from for those of you who are 127.
Oh.
Okay. Anyway, next. Next, my friend.
That's your key viewership there. Come on. I mean.
Next is Provoked. Bollywood sensation Aishwarya Rai stars in the fact-based story of the case that inspired British lawmakers to recognize the battered woman defense. Rai plays the quiet and dignified Karanjit. She's a Punjabi woman who endures years of verbal, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse at the hands of her monstrous British-born husband. He's played by Naveen Andrews, who's on Lost. One night in 1989, she reaches the breaking point and sets him on fire. She doesn't even attempt to deny it.
Kiranjit Ahluwalia, you have been found guilty of murder. I hereby sentence you to life imprisonment.
You'll be eligible for parole in 12 years.
After she's convicted of murder, Provoked segues into a women in prison film.
What kind of a world is this, where a woman has to lose her marbles to get justice, and a man just has to lose his temper? I feel free.
Despite the importance of the subject matter and Rai's astonishing beauty and earnest performance, Provoked never rises above the level of a mediocre made-for-TV movie. When we finally get to Karanjit's appeal, it's played out in such a low-key fashion, we need a voiceover explaining she's actually won and she'll be free. The real-life heroes in this story deserve better than a formulaic, very poorly shot melodrama. That would be thumbs down.
This is totally blamed on the director, among other things. The shooting style in this thing is the flattest,
isn't it?
You know, squarest, dullest, least dynamic kind of a way to work with the camera. And I think what we're seeing here with the lead actress is the downside of training through Bollywood pictures, because she's a very kind of semaphoric, one of three expressions, utter joy, utter rapture, or utter terror, and there's not a lot of real life in this thing.
No, it's really bad. And people talk about, some people say Aishwarya Rai is the most beautiful woman in the world, and she is an incredible beauty, but I'm not sure yet that she's an actress that is to be reckoned with.
And she needs better material.
Much better material. Okay, coming up next, is it fair to punish a movie because you think the director's nuts? That's our thumbs up video segment. But first, here's a look at what's coming up on next week's show.
I'm pregnant.
With a baby?
Yes.
Then what are you hitting on me for?
Did no one come to save me just because they missed me?
This week's Thumbs Up videos are brought to you by Raisinets. Make a deliciously smart choice with Raisinets.
I've been at it like a dog all day. I'm utterly broken.
What were you playing?
A corpse, more or less.
Typecast again.
Looking at movies new on DVD, both getting a thumbs up from me. Peter O'Toole in his Oscar-nominated Turn in Venus, and George Clooney and Kate Blanchett in The Good German, both good films. And my pick this week, Michael, is Mel Gibson's Apocalypto, where he kind of does for Mayan civilization circa 15-something what 300 does for the Greeks. I mean, it's very, very violent, a lot of action. I thought it was well done. I think Gibson's personal problems got in the way of some people wanting to see this movie, but it's extremely violent.
Yeah.
But if you're up for that kind of thing, I think it's got an interesting story.
Right. This is where I give you the blank stare, because I didn't like that film, but it's over.
Well,
okay.
You know what? Let's see one of the beautifully shot scenes from that movie, and people will see why I'm right.
My video pick is the boxed set of Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima, more for the latter than the former. With English subtitles, Iwo Jima relays in elegiac, mournful tones the Japanese side of the Iwo Jima conflict. This 5-disc set is loaded with bonus features.
Well, most of the Pacific campaign was retaking islands that the Japanese had taken. This was the first island that was theirs.
Clint Eastwood directed both films, which ended up doing better in theaters overseas than they did here in America. Not sure what that says about our current interest in gray-toned battle stories. As an actor, Eastwood made his fortune killing off one disposable group of villains after another. As a director, Eastwood's moral intelligence in Iwo Jima especially makes up for a lot of that slaughter. I like that film a lot.
I did too. Yeah. In fact, they were both on my list of the 10 best films of the year.
All right.
Okay, Apocalypto and the Flags of Our Fathers, Letters from Iwo Jima box set will be in stores on Tuesday. And we'll be back to recap this week's show right after this.
Closed captioning for Ebert and Roeper is sponsored by...
Man has evolved to the point where he no longer needs to stand in line for tickets. The MovieTickets.card, available only at MovieTickets.com.
Okay, recapping the movies on this week's show. 2 thumbs down for Shrek the Third. 2 thumbs way up for Once. 2 thumbs down for Even Money. 2 thumbs down for the Wendell Baker Story. And 2 thumbs down for Provoked.
So really the movie people need to see is Once. And Michael, thanks again for joining me.
Thank you.
For You, Your Movie Sucks by Roger Ebert. It's a terrific book about some of the worst movies out there, and go to our website to find out which star sent Roger a giant bouquet in recognition of that book. Okay, that's it for this week's show. Until next week, the balcony is closed.
Stuffed French toast treasures at IHOP. Delectable cherry vanilla, banana with caramel sauce, or scrumptious strawberry. Come hungry, leave happy.
Mom, Dad, should I marry Chloe, Liz, or Jill?
New brake service options from Meineke. Life doesn't always give you options. Meineke does.
It's the extra creamy ice cream you don't have to feel guilty about. Double churn from Breyers.
Is today the day you show your dog how much you care? Ask your vet if HeartGuard Plus is right for your dog.